Good day. I am Janine Santos, an assistant professor of Fogwang College and a researcher of the Film Development Council of the Philippines, and I have recently conducted semi-structured interviews and participant observations of six cultural literacy initiatives in the Philippines to answer the question, what is cultural literacy in the face of neoliberal advancements? I will first be discussing about the crisis of valuation in the creative economy, followed by the redefinition of cultural literacy based on the accounts of six respondents, and lastly, give an overview of the current landscape of cultural education in the Philippines. The creative economy in the advent of neoliberalism has resulted to what Mark Banks calls the crisis of values in culture. In the crisis of values, culture, in its seeming elusiveness in pinpointing its intrinsic value to be pitted against economic value due to its focus on individual consumption, lost its ability to articulate its function in the creative economy and is simply relegated to econometrics. This poses a much greater threat if the be efficient or disappear rational of economic instrumentalism phrases the crisis of values as the crisis of the impending extinction of culture that has no economic value. However, for a country in the continuous process of decolonization, such as the Philippines, the use value of culture is still in the context of nation building. In this case, what is in crisis is the consciousness of this precise value of culture and not the value itself, translating the crisis of values into the crisis of valuation. For the respondents, cultural literacy, therefore, is having the consciousness of the value of culture, which leads to the capacity to evaluate it against the devaluation it has incurred through colonial experience and against the colonizing logics of the market and the advent of neoliberal globalization. In essence, cultural literacy equips an individual with a cultural consciousness to collectively transform reality, not for his own interests alone, but for the interests of those who share the same culture. Culture, as a point of unity, restores the dignity devalued by the colonial experience through the consciousness of the oppressed of their shared socio-historical experiences. And this consciousness, which brings them to full humanization, allows them to engage in the struggle for liberation. Culture, as a point of defense, this radically charged with what Negri refers to as subaltern nationalism, becomes a beacon of hope and a source of progressive social force, made an undeniable fact by cultural products and expressions. These cultural products and expressions, as products of nationalism, above the logics of the market, and as mirrors of society that reflect their lived realities, whilst they simultaneously confront, challenge, and provide for alternatives to transform these realities, makes its exchange value only subservient to its use value, and is therefore resistant to simple economic rationalization. And cultural literacy, stemming from consciousness as an ideational capacity, can best be cultivated through dialogic cultural education. Considering the present challenges of institutional education, which some refer to as colonizing agency, the most effective cultural literacy initiatives for the respondents are those that occur in non-formal, informal, and alternative spaces, from the grassroots initiatives to initiatives carried out through informal teaching, some of which may still be subsidized by public institutions but are not directly handled by them. Two initiatives that would best illustrate this are Batang Ramon Obusan and the sociopolitical initiatives of the concerned artists of the Philippines. Albeit faced with present challenges that pressure their operation, these initiatives raise the consciousness of the value of culture through performances, trainings, non-formal educational programs, visual literacy, and social engagement and mobility. The Batang Ramon Obusan is a non-formal folk dance training program for indigent children under the Ramon Obusan Folkloric Group, one of the leading folkloric dance companies of the Philippines. The children, who otherwise would have no means of affording such a program, are trained for free in both the music and dances of various ethno-linguistic groups all over the archipelago, while also earning their school allowances when invited to perform for state functions and tours. The Batang Ramon Obusan program, as a cultural literacy initiative, is the only program in the country that adopts a dialogic pedagogy in teaching and is the second within Southeast Asia aside from the Legong dancers of Indonesia. The raising of the consciousness of the value of culture, in this case, is not through paternalistic approach, but through a collaborative environment where one who already knows the dance or the music can also teach it, regardless of age, sex, qualification, or socioeconomic background. The dignity brought back by folk music and dance training to the children dehumanized by poverty makes them evaluate culture as something beyond their financial incapacity, and the dignity brought back to them also incurs a sense of responsibility to safeguard culture as something worth more than their lives. The Concerned Artists of the Philippines, as an artist focused organization, concerns itself with radicalizing professional artists and raising their socio political awareness by bringing them to oppressed communities, to victims of social injustices, and to cause oriented socio political mass actions. The organization talks about the current issues on Philippine culture from an anthropological perspective, such as the onslaught of neoliberal globalization and the importance of a mass, national, and scientific culture. For the respondents, art should not just be plain circus but should convey a message to the audience, something that is often compromised in an increasingly profit oriented art world. What's more is that the younger generation of artists seem to lose interest in joining such groups and are more concerned with individual production and the aestheticization of everyday life as the new cultural intermediaries composed of creatives and weekend bohemians. But all in all, the respondents believe that change can occur in increments, and the utopian possibility offered by art in its role as a mirror of society that confronts, challenges, and transforms material reality will provide for the hope that one day we will live in a society that has no need for such radical organizations.